want to welcome everyone to, let me start over again. Okay. I'm Roger Anionson at Portland Community College, and I'm welcoming Michael Patterson. He's a co-author of our textbooks in two of our courses, starting with the textbook Strong Brains, Sharp Minds, right, and also Cognitive Activity Design. I want to go back a step before there were any books that we had co-authored and used as the foundations for some of our courses here at PCC. And Michael and I have collaborated for almost a decade now on various projects, and the most exciting things are happening right now. And Michael, thank you for coming to campus and explaining a little bit about the background of MindRamp.
Well, MindRamp, I was directing the Staying Sharp program at AERP, which was a program that worked with the Dana Alliance for Brain Initiatives. They got the top neuroscientists. We put together moderated discussions, and we essentially talked about what do we need to know about the brain in order to have a conversation, an intelligent conversation. What do we need to know about the brain, why it sometimes gets worse as we get older, and third, what can we do about it to protect it. And fortunately, I found Roger, was able to hire Roger as a consultant, and when that program was discontinued, Roger and I decided to continue the work because the neuroscience was so exciting and it was so promising, and there really did seem to be opportunities to help people understand what they could do to keep their brains healthy. So that's what we've been doing.
And this was before before I started teaching here.
Right, right.
When I started teaching here, I remember that you and I thought that if we could translate neuroscience into plain English and we could deliver it to individuals in trainings, that maybe the best place would be gerontology students who are going to be going into careers in this new field of longevity. And we use that as one of our taglines about longevity. And what did we decide on?
Well, we came up with the idea for our mission, which I think is right, and we've stuck with it, that what we're trying to do is promote a long life worth living. We are all have the opportunity to live longer these days, which is a great gift if those extra years are quality years, if they're good years. We don't particularly want to live longer if we're going to be sick for more time, if we're depressed and sort of suffering for more of those years. So the idea is, what can we do, what can any of us do to live longer lives, but make sure that those lives are lives that are worth living? And that sort of begs the question there. Sure. What does that mean?
That's right. When you have strong brains, and we've got the textbook that shows us how to do it and what to do, but there really was no pathway. And so you and I started working on the next in the steps of how do you get this out to as many people as needed. And I always say that anyone with a brain needs to know how to make their brains better than they were and have some of the techniques. So we call that Better Brains by Design. So give us an idea of what we're looking forward to.
Yeah, so the idea is exactly right. Better brains is like as we're going forward through longevity, what we should be working on is really trying to keep improving our brains. So much of what we were told earlier on was that as you get older, you need to just expect that you're going to have cognitive decline. That seemed inevitable. But the research is showing that no, there are a lot of people who do quite well and keep going forward. Their brain keeps getting better. So what are those people doing? What can we learn from them? What can we learn from the science so that we can take on those behaviors, take on those, minimize the risk factors. We'll talk about risk factors and protective factors so that our brains can continue to get better. And then the second part, anticipating your question, Better Brains by Design, we thought is important because really the point is we can design the type of brain that we want to have going forward because the brain is so plastic.
We found that you can't have one size fitting everyone. And so by having the design as the end of that title, Better Brains by Design, motivate someone to not take the first step until they've got a design that's customized for their particular needs, challenges. Then we call it an initiative. Why are we calling it an initiative?
Well, because really what we're trying to do, we need to get this information out. It's good information, so we're packaging information that's already out there. Like you say, kind of putting it into language that people can understand, but then people have to actually do it. And one of the things we found is that it's like any New Year's resolution. It's great to know what to do. It's hard to actually go and do it.
And to sustain it.
And sustain it, which is, this is not magic bullet kind of stuff. This is not, do this for 2 weeks and magically you're going to be great. It's, you have to actually try to do lifestyle changes.
It is not a quick fix.
Right.
You can go to Powell's Books and you can have a day just looking at the various quick fix for your brain and how to do something in so many days. The model that I think that I want to make sure that we start talking about the Better Brains by Design is that if someone is going to take the time to invest, we call it mental capital, into their brain's future, it's a lifetime design.
Right.
It's not a design that's going to be like a diet that you can go on and off, because we wanted to stop trying to have something that is quick and have something that's sustainable.
Yeah, something that people can integrate into their lives and make a part of their lives. One final point on this, Better Brains by Design and our mission of a life worth living begs the question, what is a life worth living? And initially we thought, well, this is something that we can't really answer. Each individual has to answer for themselves, which I think is still pretty much true. But as we got into the literature, as we got into the research, we realized that people have actually thought about this for a long time. 2,500 years back to Aristotle and the Greeks have tried to decide what makes a good life. So there are guidelines that we can sort of give to people. And one of the ways that we frame this is, essentially you can do a continuum that runs from suffering.
So on one side it would be suffering.
Yeah, suffering and depression and sort of decline. The other side of the continuum would be flourishing, where you're actually feeling like you're thriving, you're doing great stuff. The people who talk about this say there is a central point.
And when you told me about the central point, I didn't realize that that's really the focus, is finding out where that central point is and then shifting it, either making sure you're doing things. So what's the central point?
Well, they call it languishing. The idea is even if you get rid of all of the negative stuff, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting into feeling all of the positive stuff. You're not flourishing. In a sense, you're kind of in this languishing period where you're not feeling very much. I mean, psychologist Martin Seligman, who's done a lot of work on flourishing, said, I sometimes could get people out of depression, but then I didn't have happy people. What I had was people who felt nothing. And he realized that's why he really had to develop and work with this whole idea of positive psychology. We have to learn how to be happy. We have to learn how to thrive and flourish. So that is really, that's been a new component on what we've been working on, and that's really a lot of the focus of this Better Brains by Design, is not only establishing the brain health, making sure that our brains are healthy, but then how do we use our brains and our minds in positive ways so that we can work our way out of suffering and decline.
Past languishing.
Past languishing. Don't want to get stuck in languishing, into flourishing.
And in the languishing area, as Seligman points out, once you have someone to that area and they're not looking to flourish, then they're more vulnerable to slip back. And the hardest part might be getting someone to be convinced that neuroplasticity is real. Once they get from suffering to languishing, they've changed their brain. Why not think of how to change your brain further? So we're looking at a new model of teaching people how to change their brain by having them design what will work for them. I would like to say the first best step in one of these efforts to improve your brain is a step in the right direction.
Good.
So we're asking people to stop and really understand that this is a lifetime design that's going to use the science that's already out there.
Well said.
Okay, thank you.